23rd of September 1989 is a day that City fans will probably remember. I certainly remember it well. A day when City beat United by 5-1. One of the players in that team that day was Ian Bishop. He'll talk about that in just a moment. He had two spells at City. He came again towards the end of his career. But how does he remember his time at City? What I do remember is that he was a player who I loved to watch, as you will see from my first question to Ian. Hope you enjoy the interview.
Obviously, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't say this in a sycophantic way, I say it genuinely, of all the players, and I've watched an awful lot of players play for City, very few gave me the pleasure that I had watching you, because you were enjoyable to watch. You were flamboyant. You played with a smile on your face. You did everything I love about football. Now, clearly, the Pep way is quite close to that, and we had one or two other players like you. But you always looked like you really enjoyed it. You looked like you cared. You looked like you know, as I say, played football with a smile on your face. Have I read you right? Is that what you were?
I actually got a Billy Bonds actually asked me how could I run round with a smile on my face, and I said, "Well, you must know I'm still serious. I smile because I'm doing the best job in the world." That was it. You know, that football arena, that football field, it was my haven. Geez, it was where I was at home. The rest of the time in my life wasn't my normal. The football pitch was my normal, and the rest was what I had to deal with. You know what I mean? It was. I had no need to kiss my badge. When that's a thing, because I think people knew how much I cared. You know, I didn't have to go around doing anything elaborate to show that. But my sadness is, Cheesy, that the first period ended too quickly. I know people talk about that time, and I know the Derby game had a big bearing on it. I'd like to think that I proved in other games that I was a City type of player, and why Mel had brought me in. And they still talk about the Bournemouth game in the Bournemouth colours, you know, 2 games from the end of the season, that they knew from then I was a City type player. And some fans even went as far to say, as they said that day, we've got to go and get him, sort of thing. And I just felt at home there, Cheesy. It was one of them things, you know, you go to a new club, a big club, and sometimes it's daunting. But because it was a family type atmosphere and a family club, you know, I'd seen the lads who were there. You know, it was a good young group of kids, quality footballers as well. I'm just sad that sometimes when you do look back, that if things were a little bit different, I know I would have spent 10 years there, mate, if not longer. I could have been looking at a testimonial at Man City, but I'm also a realist, mate, and you know, things happen. Kendall come back. I did say to Lakey, and it's been documented, that I'll see it in the future, or see it. You know, it's been nice knowing you, and it became true. But I've got no qualms about the club I went to. You know, I think it was harder for me to go and settle in London than it was to come up to Manchester and settle in. It was a tough environment, I'll be honest with you. You know, but I think I ended up thriving in it. You know, the similar clubs. The time at City gave me an insight into another family orientated club, and the tough bit about it, I'm saying tough, it wasn't a tough transition from a family club to a family club. They had the same values, you know. The toughness was, I think there was a harshness about the West Ham fans. I think, you know, a bit like the City fans, I do relate to the two clubs being so similar. The suffering for so many years, you know, the big club around the corner, where West Ham had a few big clubs around the corner. You know, they were in the league below at the time, and I wasn't worried about that. You know, I'd been down there. I'd done all the 4 divisions with Carlisle, so it wasn't really stepping down for me. It was a challenge for me to say, okay, I'm going to bring this club back to where it belongs, and I'm going to prove myself with these colours on now. And thankfully, you know, 9 years and 300 games sort of proves that, you know.
Of course it does. And when we're talking about City, though, I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched that headed goal you scored in the derby. That's as a City fan, something I really, really enjoyed. did that mean as much to you at that moment as it did to us to watch it?
Mate, of course it does. When you sign for a club, you sign for them supporters. That's who you play for. You know, they own that club without having the monetary, hold over it. It's about them. They're there for their life. Players, managers, chairman, they'll all come and go. And what you have to realise is it's their club. So you sign for them, and you're not going to please all of them. You know, you learn very quickly that, especially being a new player, you're going to come in and take somebody's place. You've got to come in and infiltrate that dressing room and take somebody's friend out the way. You know, which I don't think people really look at it like that. You have to go and prove yourself to them players, to them supporters. Obviously, the manager signed you, so you've got some bearing on that. He already rates you because he wouldn't bring you in otherwise. But then you've got to prove yourself on the field to them players and to them supporters. And I think the Man United game, it sort of solidified what they think, because I thought we were playing well, mate. We were losing by the odd goal. It was so close for me. It was so close to Mel not getting fired. If Mel doesn't get fired, Howard doesn't come, then I don't leave. And then you can look at it like that. But I'd like to think in the short space of time I was there, I did prove myself to the players. I did prove myself to the supporters. And it was partly the reason why I came back, mate. I gave up a shed load of money to come back, Cheesy. And it was, as soon as I heard it was Man City, I didn't even care what division they were in, what division they were going to. It was coming back and finishing a job, mate, to me. I was, 9 years older. But I still thought I was a Premier League player. I know I deserved to be in that West Ham team more than I was. For me, it was about playing football. I wouldn't have left West Ham for any other club at that stage of my life.
All I can say is, as a lifelong City fan, watching players like you, who are few and far between, who play with a heart on the front of the chest, with a smile on the face, and with sheer enjoyment, is what I go to football for. And you're right, football is the fans, and now obviously with no fans, it's a different thing, isn't it? It's become a giant of a money earning sort of thing rather than what it used to be. And I mean, do you see football now as, there's a little bit of me saying it's not as good as it once was, or are we just being old men?
You know what, mate? It's hard because you run the gauntlet of sounding like an old fart, don't you? Like, okay, it was better in my day. I think football's easier today. There's two teams right now that I watch. It's Liverpool and Man City. Obviously, I support West Ham and I see them, but I mean in a football sense, to give me absolute joy and pleasure, and to know that they're playing and doing things for the right reasons. I think footballers are now manufactured. I don't think there's as many characters anymore. I don't think the passion is there anymore. The fans try and bring that. I don't think the players bring it themselves. I think there's too much robotic stuff. There's too many passing backwards and sideways and about stats and the falling down. I think footballers today, there's a responsibility to them, to the managers, to referees. We've seen the standard of refereeing. It's abysmal. We thought VAR was going to help, and all it served to do was to show us how bad it is. The footballers today, their first thought is backwards. First touch is backwards. How can I find a way to go backwards? And to me, I believe you should play the game. It's one thing, possession football. When you do training sessions and you do possession, and there's no goals or there's no end-to-end where you need to go, it's one square, you stay in the square and you keep possession, that's fine. But if you're keeping possession in a certain area for a certain length of time, eventually you're going to lose it. And this is what you find now with every team trying to play out the back. Some of them aren't good enough, but they believe that's what we're supposed to do now. They don't do it well enough. They don't do it for the right reasons. You know, City and Liverpool do. I believe now football, you look at the kickoff now, facing backwards and going backwards. Now it ends up going back to the keeper sometimes, and now the keeper will smack it and it'll go to the halfway line where you started after about 10 passes of almost getting yourself in trouble. Now I believe you should start a game like you're 1-0 down and there's 5 minutes left. I believe from the beginning of a game, you go and attack, you take that chance. I don't care whether it's somebody playing against Liverpool or Man City. That's what I would do. If I was Norwich or a bottom team, that's what I would do. I would say we're going to go high intensity, 15 minutes, we're going to go and see. If we go a goal down, it's probably what's going to happen later on anyway. But if we go a goal up, now all of a sudden we can say, okay, let's try and keep possession a little bit, because now they have to come after us. So I believe the game, it starts on a negative for most teams by going backwards. And it's hard to get out of that momentum when you do go a goal down, especially against the good teams. It's hard to now say, okay, let's change it to an attacking system. It's difficult for me. I wouldn't be like that, mate. It's, you know, I Benny Hill through football matches now, mate. I go on fast forward first speed until I see someone. And you could listen to Benny Hill music, put it on, and it would be, that's what they'd look like until somebody makes a forward pass, and then I put it to normal. And I watch every game, mate. I record every game. We're blessed over here to get every single game, every day of the week. And I watch all of them. But 90% of them, mate, I fast forward. It's the way the game's gone to me. It's the way footballers are. Managers have a responsibility to tell their players, stop killing the game, stop falling down, stop cheating and lying. Players have the responsibility because they're supposed to be role models. You hear all these stories about what they've done off the field for this COVID. They're role models. Be a role model where kids recognise you when you've got your football kit on. Show them. You look at the youngsters come through now, and there's some good ones, don't get me wrong, ability-wise, but they've got that mentality of it's normal to feel contact and fall on the floor. You know? I don't think it's the right way. I don't think you're being a role model in that sense. And to talk about being a club for a certain length of time, it's not going to happen no more, mate, is it? It's not going to happen.
I've got one final question to you. Do you work hard on your John Lennon lookalike? Because I've been stood looking at you, and you just look the absolute spitting image of John Lennon.
I thought you said Jack Lemmon.
But you smile, and then the illusion goes.
I've been searching for these little round glasses everywhere, mate. Actually, when I was over in England, I was looking at all the antique stores, and I didn't realise, not being computer savvy, you could just go on there and look and find some, mate. So, John Lennon, I'm happy with that, mate.